Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at this challenge today. It almost sounds like something out of a storybook, doesn't it? Can someone actually find a patent-worthy, maybe even $1 million idea just by completely ditching all screens and
Yeah.
spending 7 days just immersed in nature?
Yeah, and not just any nature.
Yep.
Specifically, this experiment we're digging into took place deep inside a misty Colombian cloud forest. Think of it as the ultimate, like, zero-tech brainstorming session, forcing people to innovate using only, well, observation.
So our mission here today is pretty straightforward. We want to unpack the science, but also the stories that really prove nature isn't just a pretty picture. It's not just a vacation backdrop. It is actually maybe the greatest R&D lab on the planet, offering a kind of shortcut to real, genuine innovation. We're basically going to show you how this works, how you go from noticing, say, a little burr stuck to your coat to designing a whole new kind of urban farm.
And the big question we're tackling is, is this connection, this idea that being outside makes you some kind of genius?
Yeah.
Is that just poetic fluff, romantic thinking? Or is there actually a hard, measurable scientific link between spending time outdoors and, well, creativity? Genius, even.
Well, what's really cool is that neuroscientists, they've already kind of given us a big piece of the answer. It is hard science. When you step away from all the digital noise, the notifications, the emails, and you step into a natural setting, something pretty profound happens in your brain.
Exactly. Researchers have found actual evidence for this. Exposure to nature, it significantly reduces activity in a specific part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. Now, this area, it's your brain's CEO, basically. It handles planning, vigilance, analysis, and really importantly for creativity, censorship.
Okay, hang on. So if that's the part that's constantly evaluating everything, that little voice, the inner critic saying, oh, that idea is dumb, or that'll never work.
Yeah.
What happens when we turn the volume down on it?
Well, by lowering that constant high-level analytical chatter, you essentially open the door for something called divergent thinking. That's the wilder associative thinking, the nonlinear stuff. It lets you connect two things that seem totally unrelated, and bam, you might land on a novel idea. It sort of frees your mind from those same old tracks, the conventional thought patterns.
But wait a second. If nature turns down our sort of internal editor, that analytical filter, doesn't that mean we risk just ending up with, I don't know, completely impractical ideas, weird stuff? How do you channel that divergent thinking productively?
Well, that's where the structure of this experiment really comes into play, and we'll definitely get into the specific rules later on. But the short answer is a quieted mind actually becomes hyper-aware, hyper-receptive. It doesn't generate less useful ideas. It actually generates more original ideas because it stops shooting down possibilities right away. You swap out self-judgment for pure, unadulterated curiosity.
That idea of challenging your usual ways of thinking, unlocking curiosity, that's really what we love to do here at the Deep Dive. So if you enjoy peeling back the layers on things like, well, biomimicry and neuroscience, we really want you to join our community. We're all curious learners here.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to check out our main knowledge hub. It's the Mind Expansion Daily channel. Lots more content there. And hey, if this deep dive is sparking some of those aha moments for you, please do us a favor, hit that like button, share this with someone who you think needs a creative kickstart this week.
Absolutely. And if you find real value in these deep dives we piece together from, all these fascinating sources, you can always show your support by buying us a cup of coffee. The link's right below. Oh, and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. We genuinely love seeing how far this knowledge travels. Okay, so let's use that refresh mindset now. Let's explore evolution's library.
Right, before that quick break, we touched on the neuroscience, why nature actually helps our thinking. So now let's see how that kind of primal mindset translates into, well, some of evolution's greatest hits, if you will. The reason nature is just such a powerhouse for ideas is that evolution, it's basically 3.8 billion years of nonstop R&D, which brings us right to the core idea here, biomimicry.
Biomimicry. It sounds complicated, but it's really quite simple, isn't it? It's the field that looks at how nature's designs, its processes, can be applied directly to human tech, human innovation. You're not really inventing from scratch. You're more like copying evolution's homework that's already been tested for millennia.
Exactly. And the poster child, the classic starting point for this whole concept is, well, everyone knows it, it's Velcro.
Right. You got to picture this Swiss engineer, George de Mistral. It's 1941. He's back from a hunting trip. And he's probably pretty annoyed because these little sticky things, burrs, are all over his all over his dog's fur.
Yeah.
But instead of just brushing them off in frustration, something clicks. His curiosity takes over.
He actually put one of those burrs under a microscope. And what he saw wasn't just random stickiness. It was incredibly sophisticated mechanics. Tiny, tiny hooks catching perfectly on the tiny loops in the fabric or the fur. It wasn't a flaw in the burr. It was its function, a perfect reusable fastener. It took him about 8 years of tinkering, R&D, but eventually Velcro was born. And it became this huge multi-million-dollar industry, all from just noticing something on a walk in the woods.
That's the foundation, yeah. But honestly, that story, while great, it almost feels quaint compared to some of the really high-impact examples we found in the sources, stuff that shows just how big biomimicry is today.
Oh, absolutely. Take shark skin, for instance. Sharks glide through water with almost zero drag. Why? Because their skin isn't smooth. It's covered in microscopic V-shaped scales. They're called denticles. And they actively reduce water turbulence right next to the skin. So Speedo meticulously copied this pattern for their fast-skin swimsuits. And the results, well, the data speaks for itself. At the 2004 Olympics, swimmers wearing that tech won 13 out of 15 gold medals.
Wow, that's a measurable competitive edge, literally delivered by a fish. Okay, then there's the lotus leaf. Anyone who's seen a lotus flower, maybe in a muddy pond, knows it stays perfectly clean, right? Water just beads up and rolls right off, taking all the dirt with it.
And that lotus effect, as it's called, it's all down to microscopic bumps on the leaf surface. They repel water like crazy. So this ingenious passive self-cleaning system, it's now used in self-cleaning windows, solar panels, and get this, even on hospital walls to help resist bacteria without needing constant harsh chemicals.
That's incredible. But maybe the most impressive, especially thinking about cities and buildings, is the humble termite mound.
Oh, definitely. In places like Zimbabwe, these huge mounds, they maintain a constant, perfect internal temperature, around 87 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round, with no air conditioning. An architect named Mick Pierce, he studied their incredibly complex ventilation system. It's like a natural chimney, using pressure differences inside to manage airflow and temperature.
And he took that exact system, that natural design, and applied it to build the Eastgate Center in Harare. It's this massive office complex, and it uses an astounding 90% less energy for heating and cooling than a conventional building of the same size. Nature wins, and the massive energy bills just disappear.
What's so fascinating there is how that whole philosophy, that way of thinking, it carries over beyond just pure tech. It bleeds into design, into architecture on a large scale.
It really does. You think about someone like Frank Lloyd Wright and his whole concept of organic architecture. He didn't just want buildings near nature. He wanted them to feel like they grew out of the landscape, integrated, not just plopped down.
Yeah, Falling Water is the perfect example, isn't it? His masterpiece. The house literally juts out over a waterfall. It's designed to look like it's part of the rock formation itself. That's form inspired by nature, married perfectly to function.
And that brings us right back to our participant, the person in the Colombian cloud forest experiment. On day 3, they weren't looking at some grand, complex system. They were just sitting by a little stream, sketching how the water was carving the stone over time. And the insight that hit them was simple but really profound. Nature almost never uses sharp 90-degree angles. Everything is a curve or a twist or a spiral. These are shapes that distribute stress much more effectively.
And that single, quiet observation, that became the absolute core, the seed for the final big idea, the potentially patent-worthy one, which is why the actual methodology, the structure of that 7-day challenge was so incredibly important.
Okay, so let's break that down. For anyone listening who's thinking, okay, how could I replicate something like this? What were the rules?
Right. The rules for this challenge, they were pretty strict. The location, as we said, Andine Cloud Forest near Manizales, Colombia, chosen specifically for its intense biodiversity, high altitude, about 7,000 feet. But the daily ritual, that was the core methodology.
And that involved, what, a silent hike first? Yeah, a 60-minute silent hike, no talking, just observing, followed by 30 minutes focused on observing just one single natural phenomenon. Could be a leaf, an insect, how water flows, anything. And then, the crucial part, a writing prompt that forced the connection between observation and application. The question was, how does this solve a problem better than humans currently do?
And this structured approach, it started yielding results almost immediately. On day 1, the participant noticed this plant. Its seed pods didn't just fall off, they violently exploded open, like launching seeds maybe 20 feet away. A really effective dispersal mechanism.
Right. So the idea seed from that, applying that kind of explosive targeted delivery system to medicine. Imagine tiny microcapsules that could, say, explode only when they come into contact with specific cancer cells. Ultra-precise drug delivery right inside the body.
Then on day 4, another breakthrough observation, this time about movement. The participants spent time watching a gecko climbing a wet leaf incredibly. Now, geckos manage this using something called van der Waals forces. It's basically millions of microscopic hairs on their feet, creating these temporary weak molecular bonds, like a kind of molecular stickiness that works even on damp or smooth surfaces.
Okay, so the idea from that. Gecko grip drone feet. Think about search and rescue robots or drones needing to operate in maybe a flooded disaster zone, places where normal wheels or tracks would just spin uselessly. These gecko-inspired feet to let them climb or move across slick, wet, dangerous surfaces really easily.
Exactly. Those were impressive little wins for sure. But day
Sure.
6, that's when the really big payoff arrived. The observation shifted focus to how vines grow. They don't just grow straight up, they spiral upwards, right, to maximize sunlight exposure on all their leaves. And crucially, when wind hits them, they tend to twist rather than just bend. Twisting distributes that force much more evenly along the stem than a sharp bend would. It prevents snapping.
Ah, okay. And this observation led directly to the potentially commercial concept, spiral grow balcony gardens.
Yeah, this design is basically a direct copy of that vine's efficiency principles. It uses modular planters, probably 3D printed, that twist upwards in a spiral. And get this, each level can rotate independently, tracking the sun across the sky using a small solar panel, just like the vine does, maximizing its energy intake all day long.
Wow. And the efficiency gains are pretty wild compared to traditional flat balcony boxes or planters. It uses something like 70% less floor space, but can grow 300% more food in the same footprint. And the self-watering system, where did that come from?
Inspired by the capillary action of tree roots, pulling water upwards naturally so it becomes this self-contained, stackable, vertical farm system. Absolutely perfect for dense city living, apartments, that kind of thing.
Okay, so stepping back from all these amazing specifics, we kind of circle back to that core lesson, don't we? George Mistral with Velcro, he didn't invent hooks and loops. He discovered them. He observed them.
Right. Innovation, it seems, often requires that deep curiosity, that sustained observation, and then just time. Enough quiet time for the brain, especially that quieted prefrontal cortex we talked about, to subconsciously connect the dots, connect the observation to a real human problem.
And it's not just theoretical. You mentioned the spiral grow idea is actually getting looked at.
Yeah, apparently it's already generating some serious interest from a startup incubator down in Bogota, so it has real potential.
Okay, so what does this mean for you listening right now? How can you apply this? We've got what we're calling the 30-minute nature hack.
This is how you can try and leverage this kind of thinking immediately. It's pretty simple, actually.
Step 1, pick a problem. Could be personal, could be global, something you feel stuck on using your usual methods. Step 2, go outside, just for 20 minutes. And crucially, leave your phone inside. No distractions.
Step 3, find one natural system, anything, that seems to be solving a similar problem, but better. So if your problem is logistics, maybe you watch ants moving stuff 50 times their own weight and think, wow, their distribution network is way better than Amazon's.
Okay, step 4, ask that core question again. How would nature solve this? Write down what you observed and write down your initial thoughts. And finally, step 5, and this ties back to the neuroscience, sleep on it. Don't force an answer right away. Let your subconscious work on it. The best connections often bubble up later when you're not actively trying.
Because nature, it really isn't just inspiration, is it?
Yeah.
It's infrastructure, it's proven design. From Velcro to energy-saving skyscrapers to maybe these new urban farms. The greatest human innovations so often are just really elegant copies of homework that evolution aced billions of years ago.
Which really leaves us with a big question to mull over, doesn't it? If nature already figured out super efficient heating and cooling, just look at those termite mounds. What massive urban challenge or global problem. Are we still trying to force some complicated, expensive, human-engineered solution onto when maybe the answer is already there if we just look down at the sidewalk? Or maybe up into the trees?
Exactly. That next big idea you're searching for. It's probably not hiding behind your screen or buried deep in a spreadsheet. It might literally be stuck to the bottom of your shoe right now.
So grab a notebook, step outside, and just let nature do some of the brainstorming for you.